Our day is not over just yet.
Woohoo! USA! USA!
We have an action-packed hour for you 6 p.m. drivers.
Would I rather be feared or loved? Easy, both. I want people to be afraid of how much they love me.
Matt Skraby wraps up a full day of live and local sports talk.
And that is the whole problem with aliens. You just can't trust them. Occasionally you meet a nice one, but usually they turn out to be some kind of big lizard.
The Skraby Show starts now on 97.3 The Fan.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Skraby Show for August 28th, 2025. It has been a long day, but a fun day, and I'm going to close it out for you up until 7 p.m. The Padres off days are always a little strange because I get into such the groove of having a Padres game on every single day, but if obviously they need a day off. And, you know, something that we have not mentioned about some of the roster decisions, some of the lineup, pitching moves, some of the lineup moves, we never, at least on Gwynn and Chris, we never really mentioned that the Padres just got done playing 13 games in 13 days, which does change things because it's not just you managing for 6 games or 7 games. You have to manage for 13 straight days. And you have to figure out a way to keep everybody fresh. And you have to figure out a way to get through that without ruining your bullpen or, you know, maybe losing a bunch of games. So I think that's part of things as well. Those things are all encompassing and they all factor into decisions being made by the Padres and Mike Schill and AJ Preller and everyone else. And so I think we need to give a little bit of credit to that too, is that they've just got done playing 13 games in 13 days. So it's not like the easiest stretch of the schedule. I'm not talking about opponents. It's not the hardest stretch of the schedule, but I do think the Mariners are really good. So their hitters are 1 through 5 of that lineup is scary. You got a Rosarena, Cal Raleigh, Julio Rodriguez. You got Eugenio Suarez. You got, I'm even forgetting someone right now, and I just was thinking about it, and I had everyone. But that series showed me one thing, and it's the Mariners can be scary. Now, those guys are also streaky hitters as well. I mean, except for Cal Raleigh. Cal Raleigh is the only one who is hitting home runs on a consistent basis this year. He's hit 50 before the final month of the season has even started. But, you know, if they get on a roll and they get on a roll in the playoffs, they're going to be scary. Definitely scary. All right. So coming up on the show tonight, we are going to be talking about what's going to happen with the pitching over the final month of the season and into the playoffs. I know that we're probably all sick of the Luis Arraez talk, but I did this whole breakdown yesterday and I have my Google spreadsheet open and I wanted to compare Luis Arraez to the rest of the second hitters around baseball. I wanted to see how much they're losing or even if they're gaining in certain areas. I wanted to see how he compares to the rest of the league. And I'm not saying that the Padres have to do everything the same like the rest of the league because you can be different and it can work. But the whole thing for me is that right now there is just not enough going on production-wise from the second spot in the order. Take Luis Arraez out of it. If you were to just show straight-up numbers, I don't think anyone would look at the list of numbers and be like, oh, yeah, everything's good. No, I think they would probably look at the second spot and be like, that's a little weird. Why is this way? So I wanted to go through and figure out where he ranks against some of the other hitters or second hitters in baseball. And you're going to recognize some of those names. Now, I'm not saying that Luis Arraez is a bad baseball player. I'm not saying that he deserves to be kicked off the team. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying maybe he is deployed or can be deployed in a different way that's going to help this team. And that's all my goal is in this, is to help the team. But I'm not actually going to help the team because they're not going to take any of my suggestions, which they should not take any of my suggestions. But that's where I'm coming from. I'm not coming from to prove Chris wrong. I'm not trying to prove this person wrong, prove that person wrong. I just wanted to go into it and see where Luis Arraez is ranking among everyone. So we'll get into that. Also, that big trade, Micah Parsons traded from the Cowboys to the Packers, and that's a big deal. Also, we have the Daily Gripe at the end, and if I get to it, there's a Marlins broadcaster that called out Ronald Acuna Jr. the other night, and I think it's time for us to move on a little bit, and I'll explain, if I get to that story at the end, because we have so much good stuff to talk about. And this final month of the season is obviously important. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, but they also have the easiest schedule in baseball over the final season. And I believe this team is going to clean up this month of September. I know we're not quite there yet, but they play teams that have, not really been good this year, A, and B, kind of gave up at the trade deadline. And so they play the Twins for the next 3 starting tomorrow. Then they play the Orioles at home. Then they play the Rockies. And then they have the Reds come to town. The Reds are always going to be tough. And then you have the Rockies again. Then you get the Mets, which they're going to be fighting for a playoff spot, and that's on the road. And also the White Sox, and that's the last road trip of the season. Then you have a week to end the season that is a big week. You have a week of Brewers and Diamondbacks to finish out the season, which is definitely something that is not easy. All right, I got distracted because I was kind of watching on TV, but Kyle Schwarber is going off tonight. Like, he is having a game for the ages. I believe that was his 4th home run that he hit. He just hit another home run, a 3-run bomb, which something that us Padres fans don't know much about. But the score is now 18-4. Phillies over the Braves in the bottom of the 7th inning. But that is Schwarber's 4th home run. I don't even know how many RBIs he has. Let me see how many RBIs he has in this game, because it's got to be up there. I mean, you hit 4 home runs, you got to have at least 8 RBIs, right? He's got 9 RBIs on the night. He's 4 for 5 with 4 home runs. And he has hit his 49th home run of the season. So I think, there you go. I'm just trying to look and see. I mean, everything's been bad for the Braves. Quantrill gave up 9 runs. The reliever Cox gave up 7 runs. Suero gave up 2 runs. So there you go. 4 home runs. 4 home runs for Kyle Schwarber. But I think the Phillies are in a little bit of trouble without Zach Wheeler. I think they're a little bit of trouble because, they have their guys, Ranger Suarez, Christopher Sanchez, but Zach Wheeler is an automatic win most of the time. So that's going to hurt them big time. I know I'm jumping all over the place right now because Kyle Schwarber just hit his 4th home run, but I had to say something about that. But the schedule lines up for the Padres. The Padres schedule is something that they can work with. It's not a terribly hard schedule. And all year long, they've been beating up on losing teams. All year long, they have been doing this. And I don't see it changing at all. I don't see them getting worse against losing teams, especially at the end of the year. I think that they're going to take advantage of everything. The Dodgers are also a team that has an easy schedule throughout the rest of the season. So, I keep going back and forth in my head as to whether or not I want the Padres to go for the division or just play their game. And I think the answer for me, at least, is to just play their game, see where they end up at the end of the year. I don't know that you can just keep chasing the Dodgers the entire final month. They're not down too many games. They're down 2 games right now. And Braden said something earlier. The tiebreaker goes to the Dodgers, so technically they're down 3 games. They would have to make up 3 games in order to win the division. So I want them to obviously win the division. That would be great. But I also want this team to just focus on what they can control, which is the schedule in front of them and the way that they play. And if they're going to make it deep into the playoffs, they're going to be playing their game. And that's what they need to be doing over the final month of the season. I don't think there needs to be huge changes in the final month of the season. I don't think that there needs to be anything that is out of the ordinary for the final month of the season, they just got to do what they have been doing, which is beating losing teams. That's the big part of it. And they could stand to win some more on the road. They played Colorado on the road, so, and the White Sox on the road. White Sox aren't that bad of a team. I mean, they are a bad team, but they're not like the White Sox of last year. But they have a big, I'll say it again. It's a big month ahead for them. We have lots to talk about in the next month. But I think there are some other questions that we could start looking ahead to, which is, you heard it on the roundtable, is pitching going to be okay for the Padres in the stretch run of this season? Also in the playoffs, what do you do with Dylan Cease in the playoffs? Do you have confidence the game is going to be held together with Dylan Cease as the starter? I personally like Dylan Cease, but when he's pitching, he drives me insane. And it's because he has such good stuff. It seems like in every start this year, he has such good stuff. But then at some point, he loses the feel and he starts walking guys. And then you get a 3-run shot that puts you behind. And that's just not going to get you far in the playoffs. So is he a starter in the playoffs? I know Woodsy said earlier that, yes, he's going to have to start, games when they get into the 7-game series, but I really, really don't mind the idea of putting Dylan Cease in the bullpen. I don't. I mentioned on the roundtable, Tim Lincecum won 2 Cy Youngs in a row for the Giants. In 2014, maybe even 2012 too, but I know 2014, he was a reliever and it worked. And if you could bring a guy with stuff like Dylan Cease, when it's at its best, it's nasty, it's unhittable stuff, I think that's a huge, valuable weapon that the Padres can be using. And I don't really think that they have to start him in the playoffs. I think that they can use him when it's needed, when the situation calls for it. Don't force him in there. Bring him out when the situation calls for it and give him an inning or two. Like, do you see how it goes and then act accordingly? Do you give him an inning? Say he goes 3 up, 3 down when he first comes in for his first inning, and then you trust him to go back out there. So he goes back out there. And then what about if in the third inning, he takes over in the second, in the third inning, he is starting to walk guys? Like, how many walks is too many walks for you to take him out of the game? Is 1 walk too much? I would think that's too much, or too little. Is 2 walks too much? I think 2 walks is the magic number for Dylan Cease, because once you get 2 guys on base, then the home run ball is in play, and that's a threat. And Dylan Cease has given up the most home runs on the team this season. He's given up 20 home runs, which is a lot. Nick Pivetta actually has given up 17 home runs this year, but most of his were not as damaging as the ones that Dylan Cease has given up. And I was making fun of Chris throughout the year for his stat on the 3-run homers and how the Padres don't have that many, and other teams have more than the Padres. Well, now when we're getting to this part of the year, and especially in the playoffs, 1 3-run home run in the playoffs could be good enough to win the game. And you can't be giving up 3-run home runs in the playoffs. You will lose that game most likely if you're giving up shots with 2, 3. I don't even want to talk about the grand slams. But you have, for me, that's in the back of my head. When is that, like, in the playoffs? When is that 3-run home run coming for the other team? Get him out of here now. Put in someone that can, face whatever the matchup calls for. If you need a lefty, put a lefty in the game. But when you're in the playoffs, everything's on the line. So you manage like everything is on the line. And I don't think that you need to have a long leash with Dylan Cease in the playoffs. I think you watch him carefully. You see what's happening with him, and then if he starts showing signs like we've seen this year of going the other way, then you get him out of the game. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Dan says, with this bullpen, I don't think Padres need more relievers. Yes, you're probably right, but Dylan Cease is not just your average reliever. I do think that if they were like, hey, we're giving you 1 inning, go max effort, 1 inning, I think Dylan Cease can handle that. And there are spots in the bullpen for him. They also have, expanded rosters coming up and all of that stuff. So I'm not worried about the room in the bullpen or anything like that, but I am worried that we're going to get to a part where we're going to watch Dylan Cease start a playoff game and it's going to go like it did last year. And I know that I can't bring last year's fear into this year because it's a different team, different everything. But it's hard not to think about it. It's hard not to think about it. And I don't want to be on that wrong side of things. But if Dylan Cease starts pitching better over the rest of the season, this is going to be way easier for everyone. We're not even going to have to talk about it. Then fine, put him as a starter. Let him see what he can do. He's just got to find that consistency. Darvish has to find that consistency. Those two guys need to find their consistency. It's a big problem. It's a big problem when you don't know which guy you're going to get. Are you going to get the lights out, 1 hit, 6 innings, 1 run, Darvish, or are you going to get the guy who's given up? Yesterday he didn't pitch terrible, but he did give up a 3-run home run, which pretty much ended the game for the Padres. They could not make it back. They could not catch up and get their 4 runs to tie the game. So those two guys, I'm a little nervous about. Darvish is a professional. Dylan Cease is a professional, but we have not seen clean starts as much as I would want to heading into the final month of the season. Anyway, that's just my complaining and thoughts and all that other stuff. Rod says free agent year coming in hot for Kyle Schwarber. That is right. Kyle Schwarber is going to make a lot of money in the off season because if you hit 49 home runs and he's got a month to go, there's a lot of guys with lots of home runs this year. But if you hit 49 home runs with a month to go, you're at the upper echelon of Major League Baseball hitters. All right. When we get back here on the Skraby Show, by the way, you can watch on YouTube if you want. Just go search 97.3 The Fan or go to youtube.com/@The Skraby Show, SKRAB as in boy. Why? We still have our Luis Arise breakdown, which is going to be coming up next. We have, at the end of the show, Micah Parsons traded to the Packers. And we have the, let's see, we have a Padres giveaway I'm going to talk about as well. So stick with me. Back shortly here on 97.3 The Fan.
Hey, I'm Austin Garden.
Phillies have 18 runs on 18 hits tonight against the Braves. It's 18-4, so that game's pretty much locked up. If you haven't heard, Kyle Schwarber hit 4 home runs, or has hit 4 home runs tonight. Who knows if he's going to get a 5th chance to, or 6th chance at bat, because he's 4 for 5 on the day, but he hit 4 home runs. He has 9 RBIs on the night. Some of the other scores that we should pay attention to, because we're definitely in scoreboard watching season. I'm Matt Skraby, by the way. You can follow me on social media at Matt Skraby, MattsKraby, as in boy, Y. Now, the Marlins are in the top of the 7th right now, playing the Mets in New York, and anything that defeats the Mets is going to help us. So the Marlins are winning 6-4 there. Some of the other West scores that we need to know. The Diamondbacks beat the Brewers earlier today, 6-4. Guess who got the win? Mr. Nabil Crismatt. I when I saw him on the mound, I actually was watching a game on Saturday, and he was on the mound. I was very happy because Nabil was one of our favorite guests. He was great. He said something about Christmas presents and how I wish I would have remembered before I brought this up, but he was talking about Christmas presents, and I believe his birthday is around Christmas, or someone in his family, his birthday is around Christmas, and he was basically like, everybody just wants presents. They don't want me around. They want presents, which I thought was funny, but I should have got the clip. Anyway, we're going to move on. The Cubs is the other team that the Padres are watching, and the Giants beat them 4-3. I saw a comment on the chat earlier about how the softest part of the schedule is a trap. I don't disagree that it's a trap, because I say this in football all the time. There are definitely trap games in football, but I have to think that this team, this Padres team with Mike Schill at the helm, is not allowing itself to look past certain series or look towards the playoffs. I think that they know that the job is right there in front of them. I hope that they are not looking past the upcoming month, or they're looking into the playoffs, because that will end up being something that is bad for the team, I believe. I mean, they could have some trap games. The Giants, they're already done with the Giants, so they don't have to play them anymore. So we're just really cheering for the Giants to beat up on other teams. Giants are 66-68 right now after that win today, and they are 6.5 games back of the wild card. The Padres hold the second wild card spot right now, so they're 1 game behind the Cubs. So that's why it's a big deal that the Cubs lost today, and they end up going to Colorado. So we'll see about that. But the final wild card team, the Mets, who are losing right now, they are 2.5 games behind the Padres. So, and then the Cincinnati Reds come to town. The Giants, I was reading an article earlier today from the Bay Area, and some are thinking the Giants could still make a push for the playoffs, which I guess, technically they can, but I've seen this team play. It does not look great. It does not look great at times. And I don't know that they have the quote unquote firepower on their team to make a deep run in the playoffs. The Reds have struggled lately, but the Giants have won 5 in a row. So can't count these teams out. It's really kind of annoying, actually. You can't count these teams out. Just go away, teams. Just go away. On the other side, the Red Sox lead the wild card. Then you got the Yankees, and then you have the Mariners. Okay, so I want to start this Luis Arraez conversation with this. Listen, this is from Mike Schill the other day after the game. Quote, listen, the lineups are always fluid. I know people like to think about them, rightfully so. Luis got a day off today, came off the bench, good teammate, but Luis Arraez, and here's where I think we need to listen. Luis Arraez still has the 3rd most hits in the National League and 2nd most multiple hit games entering Wednesday. He's a big part of our club. And these are the things I personally need to pay attention to more, because when you get lost when you're lost watching the games each day and you're not really checking on everything, you're not checking where he ranks there, you're not checking where he ranks there, you're not checking any of that, or at least I'm not. I kind of like to look at everything at the end of the week, just kind of see how the week went. But Luis Arraez, he does have the 3rd most hits in the National League. I think we need to put that into perspective, that's actually very good for a Luis. I mean, for any other player, the third most hits in the National League is something you hang your hat on. But for Luis Ariz, because he's a 3-time batting champ, I think he has a higher expectation, which it comes with the territory of being a professional baseball player who's won 3 straight batting titles. If you want to ask Luis Ariz where he should bat, he said, quote, "It doesn't matter for me. If I'm in the lineup, I'm happy," which is the answer that we all thought Luis Ariz was going to get. We all thought that Luis Ariz was going to give that answer. But all right. So I want to say this before we jump in to the numbers, because there are lots of numbers. So I'm going to try to make this easy to follow. And I did this yesterday morning. So all the numbers are as of yesterday morning, which I don't really think changes things enough to make a huge difference. And then I also say this: there is nothing wrong with having a lineup that is different from the rest of the lineups around baseball. So me presenting all of this is not me saying that the Padres are doing something wrong, because I honestly really don't know. I'm looking at the games, I'm watching the games, and I'm seeing the 2 spot be kind of a spot of a black hole, to say, or to if I'm coming up with a word, I'm seeing the 2 spot not come through as much as we've seen it in the past. But I wanted to see how different teams are utilizing the 2-hitter. Not all teams have a guy that is capable, of winning 3 batting titles for Luis Ariz. So I think that he's a different circumstance. He's a different case. Every player, case by case, he's definitely a different case, because it's there. The talent is there. I believe he's only 28 years old. I know that the talent is there. I just have not seen it in the last month. And when you look at his numbers, this is by far and away the worst month of his season. So maybe that's why he's getting more of the heat right now, because it's coming to the end of the year and the Padres are trying to fight for position in the playoff race. And you want Luis Ariz to be Luis Ariz. I want Luis Ariz to be Luis Ariz. Now, my whole thought about moving him down in the lineup is not that he's a terrible baseball player, but we talk about guys willing to play whatever position it takes to win. And Luis Ariz, he's been better and better at first base. Ryan O'Hearn has the outs above average number that is, I think it's second among first basemen, second or third among first basemen. And Luis Ariz is not there. But the outs above average also says that Manny Machado is a terrible defender. So that's where I struggle with these analytic stats, is because sometimes the eye test doesn't match the number. And Manny Machado is not someone, I think the last time I looked, he was -6 on the outs above average. So Manny Machado is not worse than some of the other third basemen out there. So that's why I take the outs above average stat with a grain of salt a little bit, because some of it I believe is made through probabilities. Like, should they have caught this? What's the probability of them catching it? And that's where I have a little bit of a problem with those stats, because you're making up numbers to get a number. And I know that it's not that easy. But anyway, let's see. These numbers also, before I present them, they could also be because of the overall Padres hitting philosophy. And we all know this. The team in general is not hitting home runs, but they're not also designed to be a home run hitting team. Home runs do help, obviously, but I think the overall philosophy of the Padres works when you are able to execute it. And I think with the Padres playing in Petco Park, one of the hardest parks to hit in all of baseball, I think that the Padres have built their offense around not home runs, but around hitting the gaps, hitting line drives, getting guys on base, wearing down pitchers, and moving the line. That's what their game is all about. And I like to think about it like football. In football, they always say, if you can run the ball, you can take your game anywhere. Because if the weather's bad, you could still run the football. You can't pass the football in bad weather, but you could run the football in bad weather. Same goes for this type of offense. When they're playing games, let's just say the Yankees make the World Series. They're playing games in New York in late October. It's not necessarily the warmest. It's not necessarily the most hitter-friendly conditions in the world when you're probably facing some high 40s or something like that. So I do think that the Padres game that they play is a game that works. All right, here are the numbers. So I went through the entire league and I came up with an average two-hitter around baseball. So all of the two-hitter stats around baseball, I came up with an average. And right now, the average two-hitter has 510 at-bats this season. Luis Arraez 519. So pretty on pace right there. Here's one of the big parts that it's not really a secret, but the home run disparity is huge. An average two-hitter in Major League Baseball hits 21 home runs or has hit 21 home runs around or by now. Luis Arraez has 6 home runs on the season. So that is a massive, major disparity. The averages, if you're looking at the average two-hitter around baseball, they're hitting 255. And Luis Arraez is hitting 283. So I think, obviously, we know Luis Arraez has a better batting average there. The OPS tells me how much power he's hitting for. The average hitter, two-hitter, 761 OPS. Luis Arraez has a 706 OPS. And so you don't think that's a huge disparity, but it kind of is because he's hitting a lot of doubles this year, which he has 29. The average two-hitter this year has 25 doubles, but he's just not getting, if he could hit a few more home runs, it would bring that OPS up to maybe a level that we could all stomach. And if you're looking at hits, he has 147 hits. The average two-hitter has 135 hits. The average two-hitter has 2 triples. The Luis Arraez has 4 triples this year. Here's another part of things that I think is a big deal for Luis Arraez. His walks. The average two-hitter has 58 walks so far this season, up until yesterday. Luis Arraez only has 26 walks on the season. So that is a 32 walk difference, which is a lot. Because when you think about it, that's 32 times that Luis Arraez could have been on base, but he's not. So that's one of the parts of this that I think is bigger than we give it credit for, because if he's not getting on base through the walk, that means that he's either getting out or he's getting a hit, but most of the time he's getting it out because he's not walking, and then he's either striking out, which he doesn't do often because the average two-hitter has struck out 125 times. Luis Arraez only 15 times, but he's not getting as many bases as he needs. And so here's where maybe this will put the home run disparity into view for everyone. The average two-hitter hits a home run once every 25 at-bats. Luis Arraez hits a home run once every 87 at-bats. 87. That is almost 21 games or 22 games if you just say he gets 4 at-bats a game. That's not good enough for the 2 spot. Luis Arraez is not a home run hitter. I understand that. But if he's not going to hit home runs, and he's not going to hit for average, and he's not going to walk, then they're losing in that spot. And when we get back, I think the most common misconception about Luis Arraez, I will explain when we get back. And this might change some of your minds on Luis Arraez a little bit. And I'm not trying to do this to trash the guy. I'm just going through his numbers and just trying to present what other teams are doing. And I'll give you some players from around baseball that hit in the 2 spot for other teams. And when Luis Arraez is a batting title champion, he's a 2-hitter. But this year, I don't believe he is. So I'll give you the biggest misconception about Luis Arraez when we get back here on the Skraby Show on 97.3 The Fan.
Ben and
I gotta say, it's kind of weird that there is football on TV, and it's not like preseason football or anything. There's Nebraska and Cincinnati on right now on ESPN. Cincinnati leads 3-0, but they're kind of confusing with their uniforms because the Cornhuskers obviously are red and white, so they're wearing white top jerseys, they're wearing red pants, but Cincinnati is wearing completely red uniform. So it's kind of confusing a little bit. I know you could tell the difference, but they should have maybe checked with each other. And are you guys going to wear your all red uniforms tonight? Maybe we should go with our all black uniforms, and you guys could go with the white and the red. Anyway, they're playing right now. Matt Rule looking very confused at the moment, which is usually how he seems to be looking. I got a text in the break saying, "Yeah, stop being so hard on Luis Ariz, man." That's what it said. I'm not being hard on Luis Ariz. I want Luis Ariz on this team. I want him to be the Luis Ariz that we have seen over his entire career, but mainly with the Padres last year. So I went to break saying that I had a stat for everyone that it seems to be a common misconception. I don't mind if Luis Ariz grounds out. I don't mind if he doesn't hit home runs. But if he's going to be the two-hitter, he has to do something that is going to help. It can't just be an empty out when he does get out. It can't just be an empty out. I thought, hey, at least he fights off pitches. He takes the pitcher deep into counts. 10 pitches here, 8 pitches there, 12 pitches there. At least he's tiring out the pitcher so they can get to the bullpen. Well, when I went and looked at the numbers, it was shocking to me. Shocking where he ranks on number of pitches seen per plate appearance. Because it just, when I thought about it, I was like, yeah, Luis Ariz sees lots of pitches, right? He's always fighting off pitches. He does take that statue strike sometimes, which is neither here nor there. But here's the stat. He's seen 2,000, as of yesterday morning, he's seen 2,052 pitches this year. Luis Ariz averages 3.64 pitches seen per plate appearance, which ranks 126th in baseball. And that misconception is the reason I think he should move down in the lineup. And I know I'm going to get pushback from my guy Tony. I know I'm going to get pushback from my guy Chris. But if you're not fighting balls off and you're not taking life off of a pitcher, then you have to move down in the lineup. If you're not hitting home runs and you're not driving in runs and you're not doing the things that a two-hitter traditionally does. Again, I don't think you need to be traditional with your two spot, because every team can do it different, but seeing 3.64 pitches per plate appearance it made my jaw drop, because I would have at least thought he was in the top 50 of pitches per plate appearance. Like maybe even the top 25. But he's 126th in baseball among pitches per plate appearance. That's stunning to me. That is stunning, because that's almost an easy out for the pitcher. Let's just round it up to 4. He sees 4 pitches in that bat. That's nothing for a starter. You can get rid of Luis Ariz in 4 pitches. That's a win. That's a win. I think in his career, he's always been able to hit, and things, he's always been able to find a way to get on base. And so that is where the value is. He's always on base. But when you're not always on base and you're not walking, Fernando's even upped his walks this year. His power has dipped, but Fernando has taken the walk more this year, which we've all celebrated. So I would like to see Luis Ariz maybe take some more pitches, maybe stop swinging at the ones outside the zone. And I know it's really weird for me to tell Luis Urias, a 3-time batting champion, to stop swinging pitches out of the zone. But I was going through some of I picked out 5 different, I picked out a section of 5 games from middle of the year, and I picked out his last 5 games. And some of the pitches that he's swinging at are way outside the zone. So there has to be internally some sort of discussion about how to change the approach if you're going to keep him in the 2 spot. So that's what I saved my last stat for, which is how many pitches per plate appearance he has, and that's, or he sees per plate appearance, and that's 3.64, which is 126 in baseball. So there you go. I know we've talked a lot about Luis Urias in the last couple days, but hey, that's what we do. We just all want to make this team better, I think. I don't really care if I'm right or wrong. I don't care if I say Luis Urias needs to be moved to 8th and they don't move him to 8th and I'm wrong. I don't care. I just want Luis Urias to contribute in the ways that we have seen him in the past contribute. I think it's kind of sad to me a little bit because Luis Urias is, when I was growing up, my favorite players, I grew up in the Bay Area. So I grew up with Barry Bonds. I grew up with Jeff Kent, all guys that people hate down here. But I was never a fan of those players. I was never a fan. Let me start that over. I never wanted to be like a Barry Bonds because I knew I wasn't going to be a Barry Bonds. But a guy like Luis Urias is someone that I would have looked up to as a kid. Someone who's not the biggest guy in the world, not the fastest guy in the world. He works hard and he makes it happen. And so I don't like that there's so much discourse around him right now. But again, it's part of being a professional baseball player that people are going to talk about you and people are going to trash you and people are going to say you're not very good and all of the above. But Luis Urias let me just get this out there. Luis Urias is a great dude. He's a great dude for the community. And he's someone that kids can look up to as a role model. Hey, I'm not a big dude, but look at Luis Urias. He is at the major league level. He's won 3 batting titles in a row. I think that sometimes we don't really think about the past, or you don't think about the person himself. Doesn't mean we can't talk about moving him around the lineup. And as Chris and Tony have pointed out many, many, many times, Luis Urias and him moving down the lineup isn't going to happen until Mike Schilt does it. So I could flap my gums for the next 20 days calling for it, and it may never happen. But when I opened with that quote from Mike Schilt, when he says that lineups are always fluid, I want to believe that they're able to take a look at the bigger picture and say, hey, our team would benefit more if we move Luis Urias down in the lineup and move someone up in the lineup. Ramon Laureano was asked about it too, and he said, I don't care. Just hit me, put me anywhere in the lineup as long as I'm in the lineup. So the acceptance and the willingness is there, but we'll see if it happens. And I'm not going to lie. Yesterday when I saw the lineup come out and I saw the way my phone's set up is it only gives me half of the lineup. So the first 3 hitters of the lineup. So I saw Toddy, Laureano, and Manny. I was like, what? They did it? So I clicked on it and I realized that Luis Urias was getting the off day. But for a second there, I was like, man, that's pretty crazy. Okay, I'm going to fit this in. Micah Parsons traded to the Packers. They got the Cowboys got 2 first-round picks and Kenny Clark. I think they're going to be fine. But Micah Parsons is very good. I'm not a big Micah Parsons fan per se because I think that he likes to bask in the spotlight a little too much on his podcast, and he does like to make a lot of things about himself. But hey, he's not the first athlete in the world to do that. I'm not going to do the Marlins broadcaster thing. He basically called out Ronald Acuna Jr. for not charging them out, and I'm like, really? You want Ronald Acuna Jr. to charge them out? Come on. All right, September 10th. Padres against the Reds at 5:40 p.m. I have in my hand right now a Dylan Cease no-hitter bobblehead. So this is last year's no-hitter. They're celebrating. all jokes aside, I think that's awesome. You could celebrate history on Wednesday, September 10th. The first 40,000 fans will receive a piece of Padres history. Bobbleheads are going to be distributed on a first-come, first-served basis. The first pitch for that September 10th game is set for 5:40 p.m. Gates are open to the public 90 minutes prior. For more information, please visit padres.com/giveaways. So here we go. Dylan sees bobblehead. All right, to close it up, we will do this.
What's annoying Skraby today? Let's find out. It's time for the Daily Gripe.
You know, I gotta say what's annoying me is that I can't figure out my timing on this. When I do this, you know, after the season's over and I do this like all the time, I have better timing, but timing was way off today. So I have very little time for my Daily Gripe, which is this. At work here, we have a water machine that I use all the time. I'm trying to up my water game a little bit more. I'm trying to drink more water. I'm trying to flush things out. I'm trying to be a healthy 40-year-old because I want to, you know, maybe live until I'm 80 or something. But the water machine here is always broken. I don't understand. I go to the water machine when I come in to fill up my water bottle, broken. It gets fixed for like a day and a half, broken. Went out to fill my water bottle up before the show, went over there, broken again. It's like the McDonald's ice cream machine. It seems like it's always broken. Always. I just want water, people. I just want water. It always says service on it, too. It's like, we just serviced it. What are you doing, water machine? I know it doesn't make any sense for me to be so mad, but that's who I am. Thank you for listening to the Skraby Show. We are scheduled to have Ryan O'Hearn on Gwynn and Chris tomorrow. Ben and Wood start at 6 a.m. Thanks to everybody for joining. Talk to you all tomorrow.